morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Senate President Cheese Escudero took his oath as presiding officer for the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. Other senator judges are set to take their oath today.
A House prosecutor says the proposed 19-day timeline is not enough for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III vows to uphold human rights while implementing new measures for accountability.
The southwest monsoon will bring rains to central and southern Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, according to Pag-asa. Meanwhile, the low-pressure area outside PAR has developed into a tropical depression.
First in the news, Senate President Cheese Escudero has taken his oath as presiding officer of the impeachment court for the trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Here's the report.
I, Francis Cheese G. Escudero,
solemnly swear
that in all things appertaining to
the trial of the impeachment of
the trial of the impeachment of
Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte,
Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte,
now pending,
I
will do impartial justice
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of the Philippines.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Senate President Cheese Escudero has formally taken his oath as the presiding officer for the Senate impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
After the oath-taking of the senator judges, the court will be constituted but not convened yet, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Duly noted.
The oath-taking followed hours of intense debate among senators on whether to immediately convene as an impeachment court.
I most respectfully move, number one, that our legislative business be suspended. Number two, that we already convene as the impeachment court at this very moment.
His argument centered on a constitutional term forthwith, with Minority Leader Coco Pimentel and Senator Risa Hontiveros insisting it meant the trial should begin without delay. Pimentel filed a motion to convene the Senate immediately.
Hindi po mahirap intindihin ang utos sa sino mang tapat ang intensyong sundin ito. Ang paglilitis ay dapat agarang simulan nang walang pag-iwas o iba pang pagpapaliban.
According to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, forthwith means without any delay or without interval of time. The Filipino translation for forthwith is agad, madali, bigla, dagli, o kara-karaka.
However, other senators, including Alan Peter Cayetano, questioned that interpretation.
I disagree na sa Tagalog agad-agad ang forthwith. Ang forthwith yung ibig sabihin nun sa Tagalog is yan na yung susunod, yan na yung gagawin mo. Oo, immediate yung agad-agad. Hindi ako expert sa linguistics pero medyo hindi agad ang Tagalog ng forthwith.
Senators Ronald Bato de la Rosa and Robin Padilla back Escudero, saying due process must be respected and there was no deliberate delay.
1 month ago pa, pinagawan mo na kami ng robe, Mr. President. Kasi excited na tayo na sumuot ng robe para to form the impeachment court.
Hindi po ako abogado. Ako po ay madalas akusado. Ako po ay ex-convict. Kaya ako po ay sanay sa korte. Kailangan dumaan po tayo sa due process. Hindi po tayo pwedeng palundag-lundag.
Senator Raffy Tulfo attempted to break the impasse by proposing a vote.
Naalata ko kanina pa tayo back and forth, para nag-aaway na tayo dito. To solve the impasse siguro, we'll have to put it in a vote, whether to convene today or tomorrow. Somehow we have to convene come what may. Magbutuhan na lang tayo para matapos na.
Meanwhile, Escudero criticized the House of Representatives for moving slowly, pointing out that the Senate should not be rushed.
Immediately nga ng House, hindi yun ang interpretasyon. Tapos tayo ganyan. If the prosecutors themselves, the complainants themselves were not that interested and sat on these complaints for over 2 months. Tayo bigla ngayon, mamadaliin nila habang nagpabanjing-banjing sila ng mahigit 2 buwan sa mababang kapulungan.
Despite the heated exchanges, the senators agreed to officially convene as an impeachment court on June 11.
A House prosecutor says the proposed 19-day timeline is insufficient for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Here's the report.
Congressmen and House prosecutors are not in favor of the proposed 19-day timeline to conclude the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Senate Majority Leader Francis Tolentino has suggested starting the impeachment proceedings on June 11, with a decision by June 30, just in time for the end of the 19th Congress. But for House Prosecutor and One Rider Party List Representative Rog Gutierrez, 2 days won't be enough to present all the necessary evidence, nor is it acceptable to compress the 7 articles of impeachment.
Personally, I don't think it would be possible on our part to just consolidate it into 2 articles. That would be a betrayal of the full articles of impeachment that we have filed. Parang 2 araw lang yung nabibigay for presentation of evidence. And if you're going to divide it into 7 articles, that really will not be enough time. We're not ready yet to say how much time we need, but definitely 2 days will not be enough.
Gutierrez emphasized there's no need to rush the process, adding that the trial can continue into the 20th Congress if needed. That position is also shared by lawmakers who earlier endorsed the impeachment complaints against Duterte.
Yung impeachment trial nga, ang sinabi natin, hindi siya bound by the legislative calendar. We are still standing on that, na hindi siya dapat magpa-tali doon sa usapin na hanggang June 30 lang. We think kung hanggang June 30 siya, bibigyan mo lang ng isang araw, hindi siya enough, hindi siya sapat. At dapat masatisfy natin yung tanong ng mga taong bayan kaugnay dito sa impeachment.
Alam natin pag minadali, kulang yung oras sa dami ng mga ebidensya na ipipresenta. So again, sana ma-realize nila na it's always the Constitution over personal ambition. Yun ang mahalaga. Hindi ito parang si Carlos Yulo na sa kaka-gymnastics nila, mental gymnastics, kakatambling at kakasplit, mapapalisot nila yung kanilang poon.
Meanwhile, National Unity Party President and Kamsur 2nd District Representative El Rey Villafuerte does not believe that Deputy Speaker Duke Frasco's refusal to sign the manifesto of support for Speaker Martin Romualdez has anything to do with the impeachment. Villafuerte suggested Frasco may be pressuring the Speaker to retain his post as Deputy Speaker in the next Congress.
So we were quite surprised because as Deputy Speaker, if you're speaking of unity, the first thing that Duke should have done was raise the issue among party members, party leaders. Diba? Normally, you should have a dialogue. And wala namang dialogue, wala naman siyang concern. And on my statement, he was the one grandstanding by issuing statements in the media prior to consultation with the prior party leaders. And the suspect of the members is that he's bargaining, arm-twisting the speaker to retain him as deputy speaker.
Villafuerte maintains that the NUP remains firmly behind Romualdez.
Now let's get the latest at the Senate. We have mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Arles!
Magandang araw, Diego. Nandito tayo ngayon sa Senado dahil nakita naman natin kagabi na nangumpa na nga bilang presiding officer or judge sa Senate President Chis Escudero matapos yan ng ilang oras na debate patungkol kung kailan nga ba dapat simulan na ang impeachment trial laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Mahalaga din natin tignan doon na ilang buwan daw na inupuan lamang ito ng Kongreso, 2 buwan. Pero ngayon sa Senado, kung bibilangin natin mula nang maipasa ito dito, mula nung February, ayan ay kung di tayo nagkakamali ay 4 na buwan na. Kaya naman kahapon sa kanilang pahayag nila Senator Risa Hontiveros at Senator Coco Pimentel ay forthwith na nga raw dapat na magsimula ang pagko-convene ng impeachment trial laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Ngayon, Diego, ang pinakahuling update dito sa Senado ay mamaya 4:00 ng hapon ay manunumpa ang ibang mga senador para sa pagko-convene, sa inaasang pagko-convene ng impeachment trial bukas, June 11. Pero isang mahalaga, Diego, na tignan natin ngayon dahil umuugong din ang mga usapin na dapat daw ay mag-inhibit na ang ilang mga senador na vocal sa kanilang pagsuporta sa mga Duterte. Kasi kahapon si Senator Robin Padilla ay kinumpirma sa media na gumawa siya ng resolusyon number 1371 kung saan ay Sinasabi niya dito na dapat mag-adjourn na ang 19th Congress, kasabay nito ang ilang mga pending matters and proceedings, and the expiration na raw kasi ng Congress. Kaya dapat daw ay mag-refile ito at wala nang anumang maiiwan na bakas ng 19th Congress. So bukod pa dyan, binigyan niya rin sa media ng malinaw. Nandun tayo mismo at sinabi niya na kahit sunugin daw siya ay mangangamoy Rodrigo Roa Duterte siya. Kaya nakakita tayo ng mga pahayag online na medyo nababahala sa impartiality ni Senator Robin Padilla, lalo pa at isa siya sa magiging mga maglilitis dito sa paparating na impeachment trial kay VP Sara.
Yun, Arles, gusto ko i-clarify kasi yung schedule ng Senate ngayon. No? At 4 o'clock kasi they will take the oaths yung mga senator judges for them to constitute an impeachment court. Not convene, but constitute. But then again, meron din nakafile na resolution si Senator Padilla. Will they take the filing of the resolution na kailangan sa plenary, papasok sa plenary at i-refer sa isang committee?
Sa ngayon ay hindi pa natin nakukumpirma kung ano na yung magiging plano dyan, Diego, dahil dahil ngayon ay nagpapatuloy pa ang hearing ng Commission on Appointments. Nagsisidatingan na dito ang ilang mga opisyal, Pero ating inaasahan na pag-uusapan yan mamaya, lalo pa at nang magtapos ang plenaryo kagabi, ay ang huli sa mga balita natin ay nakapanumpa pa lamang si Senator Chis Escudero bilang presiding judge.
Alright, so linawin lang din natin para sa ating mga viewers that bagaman panumpa na nga si Senate President Chis Escudero bilang presiding officer ng magiging impeachment trial, ay hindi pa nagko-convene ang Senado bilang impeachment court.
Hindi pa Angela. Ayan ay bukas pa raw, June 11, pero ilang araw na lamang yan bago ang pagtatapos ng 19th Congress sa June 30.
Dun sa follow-up question, dun sa tinanong ni Diego kanina regarding the de facto dismissal of the impeachment trial na dinraf both of Senator Bato de la Rosa and Senator Robin Hood Padilla, ito ay kailangan pang ipasa, i-file sa upper chamber para sila ay makapagbotohan. Ano ang naririnig mo dyan ngayon sa Senado kung ano yung timing ng kanilang gagawin na pagboto or pag-file nito sa upper chamber nitong mga de facto dismissal na ito?
Sa ngayon, tahimik pa ang Senado sa usapin na yan, Angela. Kasi matatandaan natin kahapon noon, naging vocal naman si Senator Risa Hontiveros ng kanyang sabihin sa atin na ipepresenta niya sa plenaryo ang kanilang hiling na mag-convene na nga bilang trial court para sa impeachment ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Ngayon, hindi pa natin nakikita dito si Senator Robin Padilla, pero hinihiling natin na mabigyan tayo ng kasagutan dyan sa bagay na yan sa ilang mga sandali na lamang.
Meron na bang statement si Senator Robin Hood Padilla ukol doon sa mga sinasabi mo din na panawagan or mga komento ng ng publiko regarding his being impartial pagdating dito sa impeachment laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte?
Sa ngayon ay wala pa naman, Angela, pero ilang araw na yan at hindi lang yan si Senator Robin Padilla ang tinitingnan nila sa lente ng pagiging impartial, dahil syempre alam naman natin na may iba pang mga kaalyado ang mga Duterte, kasama na dyan syempre si Senator Bato de la Rosa. Kahapon din ay syempre nagpahayag sila ng kanilang sentimento patungkol sa panawagan na simulan ng impeachment, at narinig naman natin na sila daw ay hindi naman pipigilan din kung ano ang idinidikta o mapagkakasunduan ng plenaryo, pero kasi yung mga ganitong aksyon katulad ng resolusyon para sa dismissal ibang bagay na ito dahil magsisilbi nga silang mga senator judges ng impeachment trial na ito.
Okay, so sabi mo nga kanina, 4 o'clock pa natin ma-witness, masasaksihan yung pag-take ng oath ng mga senator na magiging judge sa looming impeachment trial against VP Sara. Pero kamusta yung atmosphere dyan ngayon sa Senate?
Tahimik dito, Angela, pero inaasahan natin na maya-maya ay babalik na tayo sa impeachment mode, yung sa plenaryo, kasi medyo critical na talaga yung mga usapin dahil sa papalapit na pagtatapos ng 19th Congress.
Alright, maraming salamat sa iyong oras. That was our mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Okay, let's also discuss the happenings yesterday, the event yesterday at at the Senate with Professor Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science, joining us today via Zoom.
Good morning, Prof. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning. Good morning also to your subscribers.
Yeah, Prof. Anyway, we saw what happened yesterday, and two words came out: convene and constitute, diba? So, of course, ang katanungan ng marami, ano ba ang difference if they constitute into an impeachment court, which will happen daw after the oath taking later, but the convening that will happen tomorrow. Ano ba ang difference niyan?
Well, when you say na pag nag-convene na sila as an impeachment court, that means that I think formally pwede na umpisahan yung impeachment trial. But of course, based on the rules, I think may mga preliminary matters muna na dapat asikasuhin, ano? Yan na nga, manunumpa muna silang lahat bilang mga what do you call the senator judges. Pinangunahan na kahapon ni Senate President Chis Escudero being the presiding officer. So we expect that later manunumpa na rin yung ibang members ng ating ibang mga senators natin. And that will signal the start of the impeachment trial.
And the reason why I ask you this, Prof, is because there's a lot of pushback against convening into the impeachment court. But walang pushback when Senator Joel Villanueva said that after they take the oath later at 4, it will constitute a court. Pag nag-constitute na ba into an impeachment court, pwede pa ba yan na magkaroon ng yung resolution ni Senator Robin Padilla to dismiss the complaint kahit nag-constitute na sila?
Well, actually, ang tingin ko, my personal view about that is that pag nag-convene pa lang sila sa impeachment court, doon pa lang pwede file yung resolution asking for the dismissal of the complaint. Hindi yung before the convening of the Senate as an impeachment court. Kasi doon nga rin nagkaroon ng angal or complaint or concern yung publiko, no, when they found out na meron daw resolution na pinapakalat na kung saan hinihiling na i-dismiss itong impeachment complaint against the Vice President. So ang tanong ng mga abogado, bakit gano'n? Hindi pa nga nag-uumpisa yung trial, pero ipapadismiss na. So I think the consensus among the legal experts is that mag-convene muna sila sa impeachment court bago pag-usapan yung mga iba't ibang mga bagay patungkol sa impeachment.
Prof, ako mag-devil's advocate lang ako konti dito. What if yung the reason why may pag-delay kahapon sa pag-convene na into impeachment court ay instead na ng June 11 gusto nila gawin nung minority gusto nila gawin na yesterday pero may mga nag-object doon. What if ang nakikita natin dito na nagiging dahilan ay inaantay pa na ma-file yung mga de facto dismissal resolution para biglang pagbotohan ng Senado ang against nga the impeachment trial na magtuloy, no? So ano magiging epekto nito sa taong bayan if that will happen?
Well, kagaya rin ng I think kagaya rin ng naging reaction ng taong bayan nung nabalitaan na parang nung nagmumukhang sinasadya na yung pagde-delay ng impeachment trial. I think magkakaroon din ng ganung klaseng reaksyon ng taong bayan pag nalaman nila na dinedelay pa dahil may mga hinihintay na mga resolutions or motion na upang ipa-dismiss de facto itong impeachment complaint. So I think it's going to earn the same kind of reaction, critical reaction from the public.
Okay. So ngayon, if ever matuloy ang impeachment trial at sa huli may acquittal ang mangyari, will this be good politically?
Well, I think so kasi at least the kind of accountability that we expect our leaders to adhere to, at least na nasunod yun kumbaga man whether or not this is going to lead to an acquittal or conviction, what's important is that umiral yung ating yung ating constitutional mechanism that requires that holds our public officials accountable to any misdeed that they have done. So yun ang importante doon. At saka yung due process, at saka yung rule of law. Meaning to say, pag isang mataas na opisyal ay nagkamali, hindi naman pwedeng kumbaga man ipagkibit-balikat na lang natin. Kundi dapat bigyan ng pansin through constitutional mechanisms like this, kagaya ng impeachment.
Prof, actually, kung titignan mo yung mga past historical proclamations sa mga senator about ano yung stance nila, what's notable right now is yung stance ni Senator Bongo, who salungat siya sa stance ni Senator Padilla at ni Senator De La Rosa, and he was voting to convene the impeachment court. No, how do you read into this? Is this something that could be tied into a possible presidential run?
Well, I think it's too early to kumbaga man connect this to a possible presidential run of Senator Bongo. Pero siguro he's just behaving in accordance to what was expected of him as a senator judge. Pinapakita niya na siya impartial, unlike his colleagues in the PDP laban, na kung saan talagang very overt sinasabi nila na kung ano yung kanilang stand even before the impeachment trial starts. Which I think again is also very characteristic of a lawyer.
Yes.
Na parang nagkaroon na siguro ng exposure and training sa court trials na kung saan nakikita nila yung mga judges na talagang walang pinapanigan and very fair and impartial. So I think doon nga sa ganung aspeto, I admire that guy kasi even though we know that he's affiliated politically with the Duterte family, pinapakita niya that he's still a lawyer and a senator was a duty dito sa impeachment trial na to. Yun ang admirable sa kanya, unlike his non-lawyer colleagues in PDP laban, na makikita mo na parang iba-iba yung behavior nila Hindi ito inaasahan natin,
Yeah, you mentioned yung mga non-lawyer colleagues kasi silang dalawa ang tied to in cooking up the resolution to dismiss the impeachment complaint. You mentioned kanina that you think or you feel legally that this dismissal should be done after the impeachment court has convened, but a lot of people are saying, at saka you'll hear a lot of the senators, including SP Cheese, saying that the Senate is a collegial body first and foremost, more than anything. So what if as a collegial body they decide to take up the dismissal of the impeachment complaint before convening, 'di ba? Ano ang magiging impact nito socially sa atin lahat?
Well, I think there will be repercussions sa Senate as an institution. And of course, there's some mga senators who are going to vote in favor of the de facto dismissal. Kasi in the past several days, nag-voice out na yung publiko. Na sabi na, no, you have to start. May pushback nga na nangyari kasi the actions, the words of the Senate President were indicating na mas lalo pa madedelay yung start ng impeachment trial. So that itself should be an indicator as to what kahit pa sabihin ng Senate President na he's not going to be pressured by any public opinion or kung sino man yung nagpe-pressure sa Senado. But then again, yung nangyari kahapon was also indicative na marunong naman sila makinig yung mga senador natin doon sa public opinion. Although siguro sabihin natin na somehow may resistance pa rin from some of our senators. Pero what's important is that we can see that what happened yesterday was kumbaga man, the Senate's reaction or response to public pressure.
Pero sa lahat po na nangyayari ngayon, Prof, how does this affect the credibility of the Senate as an institution of accountability?
Well, it goes to show, especially yung mga past several days, na that the Senate can or is capable of protecting, or if not resisting any kumbaga man, chance to hold our public officials accountable. Kumbaga man, ang nagpe-prevail kasi dito, obviously is politics. Rather than yung mga principles embedded in our Constitution, yung mga double principles like accountability, rule of law, due process. So that so pwedeng pwede rin pala na kahit may mga ganyang constitutional mechanisms, kaya pa rin proteksyonan ng ilan sa ating mga senador yung mga kapwa nila mga politiko. So and mabuti na lang I suppose with the help of social media, itong mga nasa civil society, sa academe, at sa iba-iba pang sektor ng ating lipunan, they were able to voice out their critical view regarding the actions of the Senate President.
Yeah, Prof, historically na, if you take a look at yung history of the upper and the lower chamber, all the way dating back, I think kay President Ramos, the Senate has enjoyed a higher trust rating than the lower house. But right now, if you take a look at the numbers, the gap is not that large anymore. Di ba? Malaki na ang nagiging trust sa lower house kaysa sa Senate ngayon. Now, do you see all of this because of all this political noise and bickering between the two houses, blaming each other for mishandling the impeachment, that the people are, trying to veer now towards pegging the lower chamber as the heroes? Kasi parang nandun yung impeachment group, there's a high clamor for the impeachment. Do you see that effect?
Oh yes, kasi surveys naman are of course influenced by the public issues, So yun, tama, there is this perception, although historically you're right in pointing out that the Senate has enjoyed kumbaga man, between the two chambers, the Senate has enjoyed a higher kumbaga man, positive review from the people, kaya nga lang kasi it's because of the view that the Senate is more independent-minded compared to the House. Kaya nga lang dito sa issue na to, sa usapin ng impeachment trial, it seems that the stance of the Senate President does not jive or does not match the public opinion. Na contrary naman do sa ginagawa ng House of Representatives, acting as the kumbaga man prosecutor of the Vice President in this impeachment trial. So kumbaga man itong dalawang institutions na to, yung kanilang popularity depends on how the people appreciate their behaviors with regard to the impeachment trial.
Prof, ako naman what do you make of Senator Robin Hood Padilla's statements regarding his support? Nakikita naman natin na talagang he's very vocal, yung kanyang pagsuporta sa pamilyang Duterte. At
Diretso mo na yung sinabi.
even sinabi niya yesterday na kahit
Pasunog
sunugin
daw.
mo katawan ko nga, mangangamoy Duterte ako. And even Senator Bato de la Rosa, he's also very vocal about being a supporter of Duterte. Pero may mga call daw from the public, according dun sa aming mobile journal kanina, na saying na dapat daw mag-bow out na lang itong si Senator Robin Hood Padilla.
Mag-inhibit.
Mag-inhibit na lang siya bilang senator judge dahil impartial na siya, hindi pa naman nagsisimula
Despite
ang trial.
warnings from Cheese,
Yeah.
SP Cheese.
You believe na dapat mag-inhibit siya?
Well, kasi when it comes to about question of impartiality, parang doubtful na tayo doon. Alam na agad natin from the very start kung ano kanya magiging decision in case the impeachment trial is going to push through. So kung sakaling darating sa point na magdedesisyon yung mga senator judges, alam na natin kung ano magiging boto or decision ng itong dalawang senador na to. Especially si Senator Robin Padilla na sinabi nga niya na kahit daw sunugin siya, mga Duterte siya. Tanong ko doon, ano bang amoy ng Duterte? Anyway, he's only siguro articulating or explaining his stand regarding the issue. Pero when it comes to impartiality, mukhang wala na talaga. Now, should he inhibit? Ang sabi ng mga legal experts dito, kumbaga man yung bang act of inhibition by a judge or senator judge is a personal action on the part of the on the part
Delikadesa.
of the Senate. Yun, delikadesa pwede.
Yun ang term doon.
I doubt it. Kung hindi niya gagawin yun.
Ay nako, Prof, medyong malayo yan sa mga local politicians. I'd like to ask you finally, fearless forecast today and tomorrow, critical days for the impeachment. Do you see this convening into an impeachment court going to trial, or do you see a lot of filings happening at Padre Faura?
Well, I think it's going to continue to a trial. It's going to turn into a trial, except that there will be obstacles along the way. Kagaya nga na sinabi nyo, na may mga petitions, pwedeng may mga petitions na ipa-file sa Supreme Court.
Yung crossover, no, Prof? Yung crossover issue.
Yes, I think that's going to be crucial, kasi I doubt it na matutuloy ba yan, kumbaga man matatapos ba yan until June 30.
Yeah.
Think magko-crossover yan hanggang 20th Congress. And doon sa aspeto na yun, tingin ko magpa-file ng petition yung kampo ni Vice President Sara Duterte. So, but I think matutuloy yung trial. But it's going to be a slow start kasi lahat siguro ng mga pwedeng mga hadlang na pwedeng ilagay gagawin na ng mga, of course, ng mga kakampi ng Vice President.
Yeah.
Well, definitely
Let's
it's
see.
full of uncertainties right now, but one thing's for sure, we're all eyes today at the Senate. Thank you so much for your time, Professor Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III has pledged to uphold human rights while implementing new measures to improve police accountability and promotions. Here's the report.
PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre has visited the Commission on Human Rights to acknowledge their important role in protecting human rights. In his speech, Torre assured the CHR his new directive to increase police arrests as a performance measure will be carried out with the utmost respect for human rights. He vowed zero tolerance for extrajudicial killings and emphasized the use of lethal force will only be a last resort.
The CHR is our boss on the protection of human rights. Bawa ang pulis na ang lumabag ng karapatang pantao na isang tao, ayan na ang CHR. And I do recognize at ako ay nagpapasalamat sa CHR for keeping us always in check and being a partner of the Philippine National Police in ensuring that everything that we do is within the ambit of the law.
Torre is reportedly the first PNP chief to make an official visit to the CHR.
Isa ho sa mga pangunahing institusyon na binabantayan ng komisyon ay ang ating kapulisan. Ito hong pagbisita ni Chief PNP dito sa ating komisyon ay mahalaga dahil mapapaigting at mapapabuti ang aming relasyon upang ma-integrate na rin ang human rights sa pagtupad sa tungkulin ng ating kapulisan.
Meanwhile, Torre has also introduced a new requirement for police officers seeking promotion, affidavits of arrest. These affidavits serve as sworn statements detailing the facts and circumstances of each lawful arrest, ensuring accountability and providing a clear basis for promotion decisions. Torre said this move will help uphold human rights while improving the transparency and fairness of police promotions.
Ang basic na trabaho ng pulis ay manghuli. At ang pinaka-resibo na ikaw ay nanghuhuli ay ang affidavit of arrest. Paano mo masabi na maging effective kang commander or supervisor nitong frontline personnel, ikaw mismo hindi mo pa nasubukan na pumirma ng affidavit of arrest? Pirma ka muna ng affidavit of arrest para kita ipwesto, para kita bigyan ng posisyon.
For News 5 Caricator, we are One News.
Well, what we're seeing now is a shift in mindset ng PNP, which is good.
Totally
a fresh
different.
change. Kasi a lot of people were apprehensive, not a lot, but sa other side, apprehensive of General Torre because medyong parang ano siya, cowboy gang-ho, the way, supposedly, yung accusation nila kay Kibuloy, di ba? And kay former President Duterte. Pero by him visiting the CHR, it's a good optics that he's trying to show the people that he's willing to implement stringent drug war operations, pero with a component,
upholding
with a human rights component.
Kasi
Maganda,
yan yung
maganda tignan.
totally different from the past administration na, di ba, kill, war on drugs,
Yeah.
yung mga ganun, walang human rights, yun ang mga allegedly na sinasabi. But,
So maganda yung messaging,
Yeah.
especially for the image of the institution as a whole.
all right.
The southwest monsoon continues to affect central and southern Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, bringing rain to large parts of the country. Zambales, Bataan, Occidental Mindoro, and Palawan can expect occasional rains. Meanwhile, Metro Manila, Calabarzon, Visayas, and other areas will experience cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms. Mindanao and the rest of Luzon will generally have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers or thunderstorms. Despite being outside the Philippine area of responsibility, a tropical depression located 435 kilometers west of Iba, Zambales is enhancing monsoon activity. It has maximum sustained winds of 45 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 55 kilometers per hour, moving southwestward at 20 kilometers per hour.
Now, over 1,000 kilos of suspected shabu worth 6.88 billion pesos were recovered floating in the sea. The drugs were turned over to the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, marking the largest coastal drug seizure to date. PDEA suspects a transnational syndicate is dumping illegal drugs at sea to avoid detection. The packages reportedly originate from the Golden Triangle region in Southeast Asia. The Philippine Coast Guard has raised alerts and deployed drones and patrol boats to monitor the area. Fishermen are also urged to report any suspicious items with assurances they face no penalties for cooperating. Meanwhile, President Bongbong Marcos ordered the destruction of the seized drugs.
So today we're looking into a transnational drug syndicate na nag-ooperate within the Asia-Pacific region. So ito yung source nung dangerous drugs. Kumbaga sila yung nagtapon, they jettison these dangerous drugs on sea, and hoping that the local contact would retrieve the items. However, because of the rough seas and yung patrolya ng mga Coast Guard and Philippine Navy, hindi na nakapagpalaot yung contact nila. Ang nakakuha yung ating mga mangingisda. Based on the packaging of the dangerous drugs that were recovered, ang sinasabi ng ating mga foreign counterparts, ito ay nanggaling sa Golden Triangle area. So, saan ba yung Golden Triangle area? This is the boundaries of Myanmar, Thailand, and Laos. So, doon nanggaling yung production nitong dangerous drugs na to.
Parang may movie, di ba, ni
American Made.
American Made.
Yeah.
Actually, historically, this is the primary method that the Cubans were known for in transporting cocaine. They would dump it in the sea. May mga beacon siya na nag-activate pagdating sa dagat, tapos ipipick up. Because if ever may authorities sa area, yung suppose, hindi mo malalaman kung sino yung naglagay ng drugs, hindi mo malaman sino nagpipick up. So they're playing it safe.
And this is not the first time na nangyari ito dito sa atin. There are several incidents already na na-report na nakikita nga sa dagat, no, in our territory, itong mga abandoned or nalagay, 'di ba, na mga shabu or drugs diyan sa area na yan. But we have to make sure also yung safety ng mga fishermen who will report, no, any suspicious items doon sa kanilang area, because
siyempre matatakot sila,
sabi nga nila, 'di ba, baka transnational to, 'di ba?
And if they report, tapos malaman ng mga yung syndicate kung sino yung nag-report, baka may mangyaring masama. So of course, medyong kabado yung mga fishermen natin.
Right.
Alright, don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. 50% of Filipino families consider themselves poor, according to the latest survey by social weather stations. The percentage of families rating themselves as mahirap or poor dropped to 50%, down from 55% recorded in an earlier poll. SWS estimated that around 14.1 million Filipino families considered themselves poor as of late April 2025, a decrease from nearly 16 million. Meanwhile, 8% of Filipino families considered themselves borderline poor, and 42% said they were not poor. The survey was conducted from April 23 to 28, 2025 among 1,500 Filipino adult respondents nationwide.
Now let's get some insights from the Social Welfare Department.
Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao is now joining us on the line. Sec, thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Diego and Angela. Good morning to all your televiewers, and thank you so much for having us this morning.
Of course. But do you attribute the decrease in self-rated poverty to DSWD's initiatives, and what are these initiatives?
Well, of course, we welcome the latest SWS survey. The result of that, the decline or the decrease in the reduction in poverty incidence is greatly attributed to the anti-poverty programs being implemented by the department. We could say that programs such as the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program is in the right track. It's gaining traction, so to speak. And likewise, the other interventions and programs of the department are also proving to be effective. One of which is our disaster response efforts. You know, the Philippines is #1 in the World Risk Index. So, and we are all aware that disasters exacerbate the conditions of the poor, the marginalized, and the vulnerable. So, with our immediate, the prompt and the sufficient disaster response efforts, we can say that we are able to protect the poor population and ensure that their level of well-being do not go beyond or below further. Na hindi sila lalong humirap because of the disasters or emergencies that they are experiencing. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, yung poverty alleviation programs of the government, such as the Pantawid Pamilyang program, the Walang Putong, the Sustainable Livelihood Program, the Kalahi-6, and so many other programs that we are implementing in collaboration with other government agencies are really showing that it's gaining traction.
Well, you were saying that disaster is one event that contributes greatly, to people feeling that they are poor or gives them a hardship, no? But what other things do you see from the DSWD perspective that needs to be addressed to continue the improvement of the lives of Filipinos?
Well, of course, like any other programs, there are certain challenges that we are experiencing in its implementation. As I've mentioned earlier, disasters really affect the well-being of our poor beneficiaries. It actually exacerbates poverty. So we see these challenges as opportunities to improve on how we deliver our programs, ensure that service delivery is more effective and more efficient. That is why the department implemented also the Buong Bansa Handa strategy or project to ensure that the disaster response is more expeditious, more prompt, and more sufficient, or our supplies are adequate and could easily be accessed by our disaster-affected populations. Another challenge, of course, but we see this as an opportunity again, is making sure that we are able to coordinate properly and effectively with our local counterparts, because we believe that coordination with partners is an effective mechanism to really make sure that services are delivered promptly to our fellow Filipinos in need.
Looking at the survey right now, makikita pa rin po natin na mataas pa rin ang poverty rate sa area po ng Visayas and Mindanao. And while we recognize the efforts of DSWD, ano pa po bang ginagawa natin to address the regional problems po? Dahil this is not the first time that we are reporting na ito po yung problema ng Visayas and Mindanao.
Of course, sabi nga ni President Marcos Jr. sa DSWD, kinakailangan na ma-ensure natin na aggressive yung ating mga efforts para ma-address natin ang poverty, and then we implement various interventions para hindi mag-slide back to poverty yung mga kababayan natin whom we are assisting with the various social protection programs of the government. Isa sa mga interventions right now actually to make sure that our poor the poor Filipinos do not slide down back to poverty ay yung mga halimbawa in 40s we have the trabaho para sa mga Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program beneficiaries who are exiting from the program. So we make sure that we conduct nationwide jobs fairs. This is in collaboration with the DOLE and the LGUs, so that we could provide better opportunities for them as they exit from the program and masustain yung investments of the government. Likewise, we have also strengthened yung monitoring ng mga beneficiaries natin. This is now being done in coordination with the respective local government units. Yung mga post-services interventions na ginagawa natin, kasama na din dyan yung provision ng Sustainable Livelihood Program. It's not just merely providing this assistance or interventions, but making sure that our partners from the ground monitor its implementation. So that again, we make sure that the investments that we have initiated are sustained, and that the improvement in the level of well-being of our beneficiaries are monitored and tracked by our partners on the ground.
Kaakibat po ng sabi natin ng pagiging mahirap ay yung, of course, yung mahirap din na pagbili ng mga pagkain, let alone yung mga masusustansyang pagkain. So what are we doing as well to address malnutrition, especially among the children, when in fact there are studies that's been going on years pa saying na 95 children die per day due to malnutrition? Actually, here in the Philippines,
President Marcos Jr. instructed the departments to address the problem on hunger and malnutrition. That is why the DSWD came up with the Walang Gutom program, or the food stamps program, to provide and assist our poor beneficiaries who are experiencing involuntary hunger with the necessary interventions through the provision of monthly food credits, so that they could prepare nutritious, delicious, and inexpensive na pagkain. And not only that, we also provide information para matuto yung ating pong mga beneficiaries to prepare yung mura, masustansya at masasarap na pagkain with the limited resources that they have. Kasi it's not merely providing material or financial assistance. It's capacitating and empowering our beneficiaries to enable them na magkaroon ng mas maayos na buhay. So that's one of the interventions sa food stamps program. We also have yung namang Walang Gutom Kitchen, wherein we provide also food assistance to people experiencing involuntary hunger. We also have this partnership with the DOH, yung Philippine Malnutrition Program, wherein the SWD is focused naman on ensuring na meron tayong mga facilities that could provide nutrition-sensitive interventions. That's under calamities. And so many other programs and initiatives, again, to contribute in addressing the problem on hunger and malnutrition. And I would also like to add na sa Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, we now have the first 1,000 days grant. So, dinagdagan natin yung cash grants that they are receiving, especially for families or households na merong pregnant woman or meron pong mga mothers with children 0 to 2, because we fully recognize the need to support these individuals or these families para matulungan sila sa pagpapalaki ng kanilang mga anak dahil very critical yung first 1,000 days.
Exactly.
So that's an additional intervention that we are providing under our existing program.
All right. We will continue to get in touch with you regarding this issue. But for the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, DSWD Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao.
Thank you very much.
Now moving on to more news, more than half of the traffic tickets issued through NCAP were invalidated. From May 26 to June 4, a total of 8,586 motorists were caught by CCTVs for breaking traffic laws. But only 4,100 were confirmed to be violations after they were reviewed by the agency's personnel. Many of those nullified were small infractions, including straying out of a motorcycle lane for a few seconds.
May isip po yan, tao po ang nagre-review niyan, may puso, na pag mga minor violations po na hindi naman unreasonable, in-invalidate po natin. Like, tumungtong lang ng guhit, capture ng AI, yung mga ganun po, ini-invalidate na po natin automatic.
With the countdown to the 2025 FIVB Men's World Championship underway, a key player in Philippine sports steps up once again to back the country's volleyball dreams. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho has the report.
A major boost for Philippine volleyball as Ribisco officially reaffirms its commitment with the FIVB Volleyball Men's World Championships 2025. With the event nearing, Ribisco, through its long-standing partnership with the Philippine National Volleyball Federation, has been named an official sponsor of both the global event and its lead-up tournament, the Alas Pilipinas Invitationals. PNVF President Tatsuzara, Ribisco Vice Chairman Jonathan Nang, and FIVB Ambassadors Brian Bagunas and Eliza Valdez all graced the highly anticipated launch yesterday at Novotel Manila Araneta City.
Alam naman natin na Ribisco, kahit noon pa talaga sumusupport talaga sa volleyball, hindi lang men's or women's, talaga sa Philippine volleyball, Mapa Beach volleyball. Sobrang laking bagay na ito para sa community ng volleyball para sa Pilipinas.
The Alas Pilipinas Invitationals officially begins today, bringing together top teams from the Philippines, South Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia.
I'm just very excited for this tournament to happen. I really can't wait to watch all these amazing teams play against each other. And definitely, it's really a testament, most especially for Ribisco, na maganda yung simula. Since I was playing for the national team, hanggat wala pa ako, I think Ribisco has been consistently helping the sport in small ways or in any other ways.
The opening night will feature host team Alas Pilipinas going head-to-head with Indonesia's Jakarta Bayangkara Prasisi at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. Games continue through June 12, offering fans a glimpse of the talent and energy that will take center court during the 2025 FIVB Men's World Championships.
Expect nila na ibibigay ng Alas Pilipinas yung best nila para maipakita yung pinaka-best game nila. Kasi syempre every game kailangan makikita namin na nag-i-improve talaga.
Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho. We are One News.
And before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. A quote from Albert Einstein.
Bakit tapos na tayo?
Not to stop questioning. That wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.